It's Wednesday, July 13th. We are in Washington, D.C. going for lunch.
And I made reservations to this restaurant called the Old Ebbitt Grill, which is the oldest saloon in Washington, D.C. And it's actually been a place of gatherings for a lot of presidents, a lot of politicians, and even now it's a place where people can quickly grab lunch. Our reservation was actually for a little bit later at 1:30, but we walked in just right before 12:30, and I wondered if they could seat us, and lo and behold, they had a table for us. Because I feel like when people have lunch here, of course, they're still during working hours, that they kind of come in and have lunch and leave to go back to work.
You can tell who the tourists are because they're wearing shorts and t-shirts while a lot of people are in their business seats.
So the menu was very much an American fare menu. It had burgers, it had I had crab cakes, they had salad.
Calamari we got.
Yep, and it was a nice mix. But we're just passing around the street where they also have all the theater district around. But Old Ebbitt Grill is part of a conglomeration of different restaurants that are also historical in that sense.
So we are on our way to a museum.
Yeah, we're going to the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History, and that's a little bit south of where we were, and it's actually in line with a lot of other Smithsonian museums.
How many Smithsonians?
I think
7? Was it 7?
Oh, okay. Was it 7? I'm not sure anymore.
We have to look that up.
Yes, but there's also the Gallery of Art. There was also the American History Museum, which is different from just Natural History Museum. But there were just so many museums that there was not enough time for us to actually go and visit each one. All of the hours are between 10 and 5 p.m., so it doesn't really leave a lot of time to look in.
That's a statue of Benjamin Franklin on the $100 bill.
Yes. So again, there's a lot of these dignified figures that are being honored at different stops during our way to the museum, and a lot of these beautiful grand buildings flanking us. This is just a little bit after the American Museum of History and right before the National Gallery of Art. But the Natural Museum, of course, is the Bones and Stones Museum is what they call it. Mm-hmm. Because, of course, it has the fragments of dinosaur bones as well as mummies and all the geological kind of findings, like the Hope Diamond is actually here. This is a Maori head that's there. So it's kind of interesting because, you know, I'm so used to going to museums and having to pay a fee and you'd have to stand in front of a desk. But here, you just go in and you walk in. It's like,
free. Yeah.
They just kind of scan you or check your bag if they have to. But otherwise, it's walk in and enjoy. This is one of those Easter Island heads.
I think it was like an elephant-themed
museum
month or
is it?
Okay. Month. Because a lot of things were elephants, not inside, just in the hallways. We had elephants.
Yeah, so that was the biggest elephant in museum exhibit, and we ended up starting first with the dinosaurs, of course, always looking at the different fossils, the different bones, the different evolutions.
But these were just the mammals before the dinosaurs? Because we get to the dinosaurs.
Yeah. And so these are just the different how their evolutionary pathways were from large dinosaurs to more modern mammals
like a rhinoceros.
As the climate changed and food became scarce for the larger specimens. But it's kind of scary, you know, I can't imagine, like we go to museums enough times during the year to see how large these animals are, but to actually face them on site, you know, I would freak
and
out.
The thing about this museum, they pose their dinosaurs in different
it's
poses.
Not just standing up. They actually had one exhibit.
Squatting.
Yeah, one was squatting and one was actually attacking each other. So
and one was like on its back.
Yeah, so very cool. Very different than other museums that we're used to. So of all museums around the world, this is the number 2 museum in most popular list. Number 1 being the Louvre in France, but number 2 is the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History.
So this, you can see the dinosaur on its back there.
So it's really interesting how they pose them, because usually they'll pose them just upright and vertical or standing, you know, nothing.
There's one squatting.
Yeah, nothing to, and as if protecting its eggs over there.
Yeah, with its tail.
And it, you know, they pose them as if they're right on action for what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And not just upright, as is a traditional pose for these dinosaur fossils. So it's pretty big space here, but this is one of many that you can enter from a center court. And this one, was, of course, was just called Fossils, or Mammals, was it?
And so you can see the dinosaur there attacking
their prey, the predator versus prey exhibit. And here is Charles Darwin.
Oh, is that who that was?
Yep. And so the boys knew him as the father of evolution. So that one is right across, again, this posed two dinosaurs who are attacking each other. And as we move outward, we see more and more evolution towards the mammals that we are more familiar with. The elephants, the rhinoceros, the tiger, saber-tooth. So they're getting smaller in stature, these creatures. And then, of course, we see this giant ground sloth where the first time I saw them, I mean, this is a sloth, a mammoth sloth. The first time I saw specimens of this was in the Indianapolis Museum of Natural History. And again, it doesn't, it surprises me all the time every time I see them.
So here's the geology area.
Yep. So here we are seeing the most famous Hope Diamond. Where was it?
But that's later. These are just the meteors that dropped, and then they cut it to see the cross-section.
Right. So very interesting because they're from outer space. These are extraterrestrial sort of stones and rocks, huge enough to make impactful blows to our world when they fall, of course. And one of the killers of dinosaurs were, of course, a big meteor rock that fell around Mexico. So again, this is so interesting because they are not from Earth. And yet, when you see them, they're cut open in cross sections, and just the patterns that they have look very cool, like almost like the lattice work of a cityscape.
Mm-hmm.
What killed the dinosaurs? And so they're, calculating that it's one big stone that fell around the South American area.
Yeah.
And it was enough to create ripple effects of destruction globally, killing millions of life there. That only 30% of life survived, and those 30% were the smaller animals that then evolved to the mammals that we are now familiar with. But these are all the different stones and rocks, minerals that are found from outer space.
Yep.
Some of them have metallic qualities, some of them are...
So these ones here,
roughened.
Is that the real one? I think that's more like a mold.
A model?
Similar to like the dinosaur casting.
Like in terms of plastering, right?
Yeah. Because these ones look more real.
And they're so huge. Because, again, they don't look that huge in terms of them being displayed, but the impact of them falling into our area.
So here's the Hope Diamond.
Hope Diamond has a very interesting past story. This is only about 90-something carats now.
I didn't see. We have to look back.
And these are other quartz materials, other jewelry that we found in this exhibit as well. But the Hope Diamond, again...
This was an interesting shape.
Yeah, this was made of sand, and then it's hardened into the form that it oozes out of, I want to say. But it's from France, Fontainebleau, France. And they actually use that kind of white sand to create their glassware.
And this is like a flame.
They're so beautiful, and some of these are so huge. The Tucson meteorite.
See, when it looks that color, I don't think it's real. It's like a mold.
Real.
It's like a casting.
This is an American golden topaz, and it's ginormous. This is just a cool background scene of rock chemical composition. This is a quartz, or a variety of amethyst because of its purpleness. All these different prisms, quartz. This is from Brazil. And then this is Hayden measuring up to how large he is compared to the leg bone of an elephant.
Yeah, this is more of the elephants.
Yeah.
So this was all outside the main room.
The perimeter.
So that's why I think it was like an elephant themed.
And so if we look down, we'll see that main taxidermied elephant, but these are all the sizes, the tusks, the jaws, the different kinds of species that happen.
So now, and over here are the evolution of the elephants.
And how their tusks
So these ones are extinct.
Yeah.
And then the last two are still alive.
The different ears, different length of
the ears seem to
tusks,
get bigger.
The tails, and of course their girth too. They're actually now bigger than their predecessors.
Yeah, they were so small before. So these were the living
African bush elephants, that currently the main elephants we have in our world. So we went to the bones specimen collection here, which has all the bones of different specimens from humans, primates,
apes,
reptiles,
chimpanzees,
amphibians, birds, and other various mammals. So here it just shows how human is upright versus the more crouched over specimens of the apes, the primates, the orangutans, the gorillas, and the chimpanzees. But more often than not, we have the similar basic bone structures.
Yeah.
This is a big whale that's hanging up there. The bone anatomy. These are some land animals, sheep, deer.
It's cool how we get to see the skeleton, because usually when in the museum, it's just the taxidermy.
Yes, exactly.
But here,
and you're into bones.
Here you can see the actual shape.
Correct.
With the bones.
So again, lots of various types of animals, land mammals right now that we have.
Bears and raccoons.
Bears and raccoons. Everybody has their rib cage that barrels the internal organs to protect it.
And the
their
small
legs
head.
And their limbs, and of course a small head. This one is I forgot that one. A hippo.
A hippo.
That's a hippopotamus. Just very thin rib.
Yeah,
cage. It's not
you're
very
pointing
dense.
that out to me.
It's not a spherical. And then if you look at a zebra or something, it's a much denser rib structure formation, because again they have to be more on the move, so they have to be stronger. Their musculature would have to be supported better by
There's a
the
giraffe.
bones that they have.
The giraffe wasn't as tall as
I know, maybe
thought
that's
it.
this little giraffe.
Baby giraffe.
So arms and fingers evolved into wings. So
Yeah, the
see-
bone structure of all these birds were so intricate. Not
And
these
it's so
ones here. You'll see
fragile.
earlier. Like
It's
here.
so fragile. Yeah, if you really take a close look at them, the design is awesome, right? You didn't see the one with the snakes?
Yeah, you'll see the snakes.
Because that one was cool.
But here, see how intricate
Yeah, very
these bones
small,
are?
interconnected.
With the big beaks. And here too. And then you'll see the bird starting to get bigger.
Yep.
Like that. Look at the neck there. The big beak.
Those are the flamingos or ostriches.
Yeah, just the bigger birds.
Yes. And again, the bigger the birds, the smaller their wingspans are for flight. They're more grounded. This is a turtle.
A leatherback turtle.
And again, interesting, right? Again, your bony structures are what supports all of your internals, what supports, again, all your tissues.
So here's a snake.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize there's bones.
Yeah, we always assume
shape
that,
it.
a snake is a very muscular creature because it just slithers. But yeah, it is completely shaped by these fine
Ribs.
bones.
I guess those are the ribs.
Yeah. It's still necessary to try to offer protection for their internal organs, I suppose.
Yeah. And then here's the vertebrae.
Very long. Like a centipede, really, if you look at it.
Venomous snake, you can see the
Fangs.
the fangs.
Yeah. And so you can be venomous without being poisonous. But you can't be poisonous without being venomous. That was the whole script there.
So here are crocodiles, and this one has like
a broad
face.
skull. Yep.
And then we're gonna see a skinny-nosed crocodile as well. They didn't show any alligators. It was just the crocodiles.
Yeah, I was surprised because I always assumed like the narrow one is just the alligator.
And some more turtles.
And some of them, even their bony anatomy itself, some of them are spiky. They're not all necessarily smooth bone.
This turtle has a long neck, and this one has a short neck. You can see the inside.
And look at their joints. It's so interesting. Sea turtles.
And these are fish that are huge.
Humongous.
Huge fish.
Swordfish. Barracuda looking
Look
fish.
at the face even looks
They look
angry.
mean.
Yeah, it looks angry. And look at that fish.
Is that a piranha? See?
Anglerfish.
Anglerfish. Someone had great seafood getting this fish to this point. Herring.
You can see the mouth. And stingrays.
Oh, that's cool.
So now we are in the
Mummies section.
Yes.
So we just walked in straight from the bones. It just added onto it. And again, just the different ways of their funerary customs, how they actually prepare the mummified body, and how and why. Why, of course, is they like to preserve. They believe in eternal life. And by preserving a body lovingly, and making sure that it's well sealed ensures that their afterlife is also guaranteed. So these are the different canopic jars where first for embalming they would have to remove the internal organs and wrap those individually and put them in separate canopic jars. And then the rest of the body is then embalmed by first preserving in different brines of salts, dry salts, and drying it out for a few months, and then wrapping it in several layers of dried garments.
Here it just says, I guess the artistry and drawing on the coffin itself.
It's symbolic of who the person is who's buried, who they belong to, and what are their wishes for this remains. But it's all very intricate and ornate as well. And once the body is wrapped up and put into the sarcophagus, which is what this is, it's again very detailed.
So this is the divine bull.
Yeah, so even animals were also mummified, and they prayed to them depending on who they thought which god was linked to them. But they also had mummified alligators, mummified crocodiles, mummified birds,
cats,
exactly,
snakes.
And they would also be part of the person's sarcophagus. And of course, the more ornate, the bigger, grander your burial site is, of course, the more important you were in your previous life.
Mm-hmm.
So pharaohs are the ones that are usually buried in the huge pyramids, and they're actually just huge tombstones, and the burial ground is actually deep underneath those pyramids. But most are carved out like in monuments.
And just symbols.
Hieroglyphics and their meanings. And
here's a translation.
Yeah, when it was decoded, what the meanings were per each symbol and how it translates.
I thought that this was cool.
Yeah. Inscription on a tomb in Giza.
And here's the actual inscription.
So again, it's amazing and humbling. Again, the civilization of people, who had such detailed parts of their lives.
You were fascinated by these bees.
I know. Bees are so important. We won't exist without bees. Bees are what pollinates everything.
So Mason wanted to go to this section, the genomes.
The DNA, genome unlocking life secrets. So of course there's a genome for diseases and how to anticipate diseases or how to control them. And of course there's the genetic DNAs that we inherit in terms of our appearances and behaviors. I was surprised Mason was interested in this.
The genomes?
Yeah, he just looked at like the signs, like, ooh, I want to go there. I'm like, we know. I'm always more on like the older kinds of exhibits, like the mummies and the bones and things that were from the past. So this is more futuristic.
Yeah.
Not to say I'm not interested.
Maybe the colors also.
Yeah, that's
it's very
true.
eye-appealing. See, notice there's all these kids here.
Yes, and there's also a lot of interactive exhibits here that asks questions.
Yes.
And it makes you participate as a viewer.
And Mud Masons of Mali.
We just saw his name, Mason, and thought that was cool.
And then here's some totems.
Yeah, so this is quite similar to the Rom.
Yes.
Where they have stairways around some totem poles like this. And this
was a big rock with a donut, and it was just in the hall, and it was huge. I didn't really I didn't read it, but
of status. That's crazy how they're still able to create these things.
So now we are heading back to the hotel.
Yeah.
To pick up Tristan.
But before that, we passed by a Starbucks because we're always looking for those mugs that we collect. And in this case,
Washington D.C.
We found the Washington D.C. finally.
So now you and Tristan are off.
Yeah.
To the Center of American Art and
Portrait. Yeah. So this one isn't as far off like the Natural Museum of History.
That's a cowboy riding a horse?
Yep, that's a cowboy riding a horse. And this one is definitely just American art versus the National Gallery of Art that had more European art or just art over the ages. This one is very specific to U.S. as a country that provides their own art. And what was cool about it is you had the National Portrait Gallery, and one of their exhibits here is about the Watergate scandal.
Yes, and that was Watergate there.
Yeah, so this is just a collection of this different pictures, portraits, photographs of the people who were involved in the Watergate scandal during that time period. And so they just had a lot of comics, a lot of satires, and then of course beyond that then is the many different portraits of very important people in the
1600
past.
to 1900.
Yep. And of course a portrait says a lot about where they come from, these people. Most of the portraits of course are from prominent figures, rich people, rich patrons. The first here is interesting because this was actually Pocahontas.
Oh.
That portrait is of Pocahontas, and as we know, she had a past in the new colonies in Virginia where
There's Benjamin Franklin.
Yep, Benjamin Franklin was here too, who was also very critical to the evolution of the birth of America. There's also the different figures here who wrote lots of statements, lots of books.
This is mostly American.
There are American, yes.
Okay.
Mostly Americans.
He looks familiar.
Like Robert Downey Jr., right? So it's again interesting because they try to capture them based on, you'll see that they're uniformed, meaning they fought in the army. They're usually colonels or generals. And then there's also, of course, inventors and also a lot of women figures too who were patrons of the arts then or patrons of some sort of movement. But these are all either the fathers of the revolution or they donated money to the causes that they found great to their hearts. This is Alexander Hamilton.
Yes, I know how he looks like now.
Very famous painting. But again, so many different figures who figured very well in the history of America and the building of America. These rooms were categorized into different parts of its evolution from the colonization period to the industrial movement, to the arts. This is actually Edith Wharton over there on the left, which is a very famous American writer about the Gilded Age. And again, this is bankers, the group of bankers, the group of fathers of revolution, and who they each were. This was Tecumseh, who negotiated different lands for the natives. Invention and industry, so you'll have Alexander Graham Bell, you'll have Carnegie. Again, the people he was Carnegie's partner, Morgan. This was a battle scene. General Grant and his generals.
Ulysses Grant.
Yeah, and that was high above in the thing. That was Osceola. As we know, Osceola Parkway is a Florida road.
Civil War
all
couples.
These different couplings during that time period.
Why is the photo so small?
Because they're small photographs way back when.
It's the original.
They're the originals.
Oh,
yes.
it's the original.
They're all the originals. So you have.
Just because these portraits are so huge, and
yes,
then
exactly.
There's a tiny photo.
So all of these paintings, of course, are oil on canvas. Usually, that's the medium. And these are the more recent acquisitions. One of it is, and this is one of the more current contributions to this collection. And then this is part of the American Art Museum part. So this is not the portrait side of it. This is just the art that American artists made over the years. And one of the exhibit is stories are what we're made of, and just how America looks from the viewpoint of different artists, whether it is someone that they know who looks to them American, or what are the vistas that they see as American, or the different neighborhoods and environments that they all live in. A cafe, a bar, a neighborhood corner, a fair with the Ferris wheel in the background. Someone playing baseball, exactly. Like what makes America America, and the different kind of scenes that different American artists of different backgrounds. It's skating in New York City pond, and some farm scenes and everything. So it was an interesting exhibit as well to see. This is the judges, for female judges over the years.
American presidents.
And now this is another cool gallery area where they actually had the American presidents by number.
Is it all the presidents here?
All the presidents are here.
Even Biden?
No, not yet. So he's just started. But Trump was the last one.
Okay.
So we have from the start of George Washington as number one. And these portraits he's had with the same artist actually.
Oh,
He had
number
7.
60. Oh, that's not... Is 16?
Yeah, number 16 is Abraham Lincoln, and this was made posthumous from his death mask and live mask. So death masks were a very popular thing during that time when someone passes away to make a mask of that person's face. And I tried to go in order because I only realized after the fact that they were ordered.
That they were numbered.
Yes, but I don't know each of them by heart.
Yes.
But again, the different leaders of this America.
That's Jackson on the Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill.
Yes. And so each had a 1 term or 2 terms. I think there's only been a few who've been assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
That one is Roosevelt. This is JFK with Jackie Kennedy, but his is a more contemporary looking.
Yeah, he doesn't get the oil photo.
It's also oil, but just contemporary.
Oh, okay.
Versus one that looks more realistic like this. This is Gerald Ford.
That's Ford.
That's Ford.
Oh, no, that was Carter.
That's Ronald
and that's
Reagan.
Ronald Reagan.
And
Bush.
This is cool. It's a very
Clinton.
abstract of Clinton. If you look closer, from the far it's his view, but from closer it's really abstract. And then there's the other Trump.
No, that's George Bush.
Oh, George Bush. That's right.
The other George Bush. There's Barack.
A very contemporary portrait of
Obama.
And then
there's Trump.
Most recent one is Donald Trump's portrait.
And what's this?
These ones are, again, other arts from other American artists. Just how they say it. We ended up going to the
gift shop
to look for anything fun. Nothing really. And then we started to walk home. That museum is open a bit later, till 7 p.m. at night, so at least it gave us time to
Most of the museums close at 5.
Close at 5, so exactly. So you don't really have much give in terms
Chinatown.
of time visit. Yeah. Chinatown was actually just quite close to us, between 5 and 6 streets. And they have smash burgers here. They had Carmine's just a little bit south of it. They had many other Chinese restaurants as well that Tristan thought he would try.